Every Thursday morning, Gemma sells apples at a market in Brittany. These are not just any apples. They're part of her family's history. They come from the orchards her grandmother planted when she returned from the Nazi concentration camps.
Since I was little, I've been told her story. I know she was deported. It was never a taboo. I've always known. It's always been a part of my family's history.
Gemma never met her grandmother. Suzanne Letapi died more than 30 years ago.
It's a story of difficulties, of humanity, and of reconstruction.
Suzanne's life was upended in the summer of 1944. The 25-year-old teacher, who belonged to a wealthy local family, found herself on the front line. Her village, Saint-Marcel, was an epicenter of the French resistance in Brittany.
Here, the resistance fighters of the Morbihan and beyond converged. They joined the SAS parachutists who had come from England.
On June 18, 1944, an intense battle broke out with the Germans. Suzanne provided first aid to members of the resistance who had been injured. For this, she was arrested by the Germans, alongside her cousin.
The atmosphere was very tense. We thought we'd be shot on the spot. We were put up against a wall, and we thought it was the end.
A month later, they were deported to Ravensbrück in Germany.
Ravensbrück concentration camp was the biggest concentration camp for women in the Nazi Third Reich. There were 120,000 women and children who were deported here.
Among the prisoners were 8,000 women from France, many of them resistance members. Suzanne stayed just a few days. She was soon sent to a satellite camp in Neubrandenburg.
A lot of satellite camps were set up really close to armament factories, and the concentration camp prisoners were rented out to the companies to produce weapons for the war.
They were forced to work 12-hour days in appalling conditions, surrounded by violent guards. Illness was rife, and they had little to eat or drink. But they took care of each other and built solidarity.
Many of them really relied on each other and shared food, shared information. I think it was an important means of survival.
Suzanne made friends with a Parisian resistance member, Simone Séailles. In April 1945, the war was coming to an end and the Soviets were drawing closer. The Germans tried to empty the camps, forcing the prisoners on what became known as death marches. Suzanne was very unwell.
We know that Simone supported Suzanne through the death march, and they arrived together to Terezin.
On the 8th of May, when Germany surrendered, Suzanne and Simone had ended up in former Czechoslovakia, in a town the Germans had turned into a Jewish ghetto. It was chaotic. Weak and sick prisoners were arriving every day. Some were sent to this building, used as a hospital.
So now we are in a building which is called Vrchlabská kasárna.
Documents suggest a small group of French women were in this room. And then Simone became seriously ill. One morning, Suzanne woke to find her friend's body being taken away.
It's possible that Simone died at this room, but we are not certain about it. Suzanne survived, and later on she was repatriated back to France.
Once home in Brittany, Suzanne had to rebuild her life. To her family's surprise, she chose to become a farmer and planted apple trees. She later married and had 4 sons.
This experience of horror of death, of destruction, led her to decide to plant her orchards, to put down roots. I think it was something vital.
The orchards have become a place of remembrance, so as not to forget Suzanne, Simone, and all of the women deported to Ravensbrück. 1,500 never made it home to France.
We can sum it up like this. She put love in first place, and as her children, we received a huge amount. I think it lives inside us all. With my brothers, it lives inside us. The idea that we must only concern ourselves with what's essential. That's it. We must love. That's her message.